promises to be one of the liveliest growth industries of the 80s. It's called the survivalist movement, and it's expanding rapidly in Canada and the United States. The survivalists say that they're hoping for the best but expecting the worst, and in the meantime they're not taking any chances. They're stocking up on long-lasting food, and some are buying guns and bomb-proof shelters. They're doing so because they believe we've entered a dangerous decade in which nuclear war or social breakdown is a real possibility. We may not have the choice of guns or butter, we may have to stockpile them both. Survivalists don't agree among themselves which disaster will strike us. What they do agree on is that governments can't do the job, and it's time now for individuals to look after themselves.
Mary Gilmet is a Toronto mother who has built up a supply of freeze-dried food that could last for years.
I know. You must be hungry by now, eh?
Like a growing number of Canadians, she's worried about what the future might hold for herself and her family.
You'll be all right.
I guess when I've sort of realized in the last few years that we as baby boomers, we are the war babies, we 30-year-olds. And I really feel that as Canadians, we are very spoiled. We tend to hide our head in the sands. We've grown up without a war, without a depression. We expect and demand at least our 10% raise every year, and if we don't get it, we're going to make a big fuss about it. I mean, sooner or later we have to realize that everything isn't just going to happen the way we expect.
Among the shooters on this Arizona rifle range is a Calgary business manager, Ray Laycock. He's traveled south to get in some training for a possible future crisis.
I don't expect anything, but I am a bit of a student of history, and you can't read history and not be faced with the fact that these things do happen. And nobody can predict when, nobody can predict where, and nobody can predict to whom. All I'm trying to do is give myself and my family the best odds that I can if such a situation ever does involve us.
Survive magazine is a new periodical from Colorado publisher Colonel Robert Brown. It's designed for people who fear that governments are losing control of the situation.
If there was not a concern, you would not have people taking, especially say blue-collar workers, taking what funds they have and, buying a little bit of dried food, maybe buying a gun for survival, put it away in the closet. They don't intend to hunt with it, they don't intend to use it, but in case something happens, they're prepared. Why would people do this unless there was concern?
There's no doubt that we're living in troubled times, but there are some people who say that we're rushing to disaster. They're the survivalists, and what they predict is social breakdown or something far worse.
No scenario could be more terrible than this.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
A nuclear holocaust, firestorms, fallout, homes reduced to ash and dust. The Arizona Badlands. No food, no water, 110 degrees and no shelter from the sun. Survivalists say that they'll be ready when economic collapse or a natural disaster or the Third World War turns everything to this sort of desolation. It's a survivalist dream that may soon become a reality. A model for an underground condominium complex in Laverton, Utah. If catastrophe struck, the Tureen Ark project could be sealed off from the outside world with impregnable defenses and accommodation for 1,000 people. The site in Laverton was chosen for its isolated surroundings. The units, when they're built here, will sell for around $50,000. The new owners can expect to survive even a nuclear holocaust. General Manager Donald Spaulding.
They could survive, up to a year. We would envision that they would not have to stay within the facility itself for the complete year, but they could survive for a year underground. This is the basic unit of Terrene Arc 1. This is the single unit that accommodates 4 persons. Within the unit itself, we have sleeping accommodations in the hide-a-bed for 2. Then in the bedroom, located off here, is also a double bed to take care of 2 more persons. Within the walls, the ceiling over the bathroom area, and located in the kitchen area, and the benches for the dining table are storage area to put food for 4 persons for a year. We have a complete kitchen capability with the sink, range, and a small refrigerator. In addition to that particular facility, we have the capability of providing both satellite television and in-house recreation and educational television.
An irony here is that the same high interest rates and unsettled economy which spawned survivalism are now stalling construction of the project. And that in Utah, a logical location for a doomsday development. It was here that Brigham Young led his Mormons to a new life in which survival through self-sufficiency was a basic belief. That Mormon tradition dominated survivalism until recent years. Freeze-dried food distributor Milton Scott.
In 1968, we started in business, and at that time we were selling basically to Mormon people. Now our sales would be 90% would be average people outside the Mormon church.
What specific events have benefited your business?
Unemployment, inflation, things of that nature, and all activities where there's been upheavals.
The hunger marches in Poland, to many survivalists, powerful proof that their fears of social breakdown might be right. Here was a modern, industrialized European state whose people should have been prosperous, yet they were slowly running out of food.
We've had a lot of Europeans calling. I guess it's because they've been sort of brought up they've seen what's happened to their country, and so they can see that it can also happen here. During the Quebec referendum, we had a lot of people, an awful lot of people buying food from Quebec at that time.
Let's look at the period from 1973, when you say it started to improve, to today. How dramatically has it improved?
Well, we do as much now in probably 3 weeks to a month as we used to do in a year.
My personal feeling is that our business probably have tripled 2 years in a row.
Philip Whitbold works for the largest freeze-dried food supplier in the United States. Like others in the emergency food business, he's put aside his own private stock of food and wishes others would do the same.
I feel sorry for a lot of American families because they are so ill prepared. You know, they don't even have bandages or anything in backup.
You think most of us are not prepared to take care of ourselves?
Definitely not. I know I have many friends where I'll go to their house, and if it's day before shopping day, they have nothing in the fridge. Nothing at all.
How much food do you have? How much of a supply?
I have a year's supply for each one of us. And if I didn't go to the store for a year, I would be fine.
Mary, what is the food like?
Well, uncooked, I would think it's unattractive looking generally. People seem to feel that way. But once cooked, it looks pretty much like any other food.
All right, I'll come to my own conclusions. Start with the green beans.
Yeah, I said they're overcooked, I'm afraid.
A little moist. They taste like green beans. Taste much better than I thought they would taste.
Yeah.
Mary Gilmet's emergency food stocks and those of thousands of other survivalists can be credited to this bestseller of the 70s, The Survivalist's Bible, Howard Ruff's How to Prosper During the Coming Bad Years.
So I read his book, and a lot of what he said seemed to be quite true of what would come in the future.
What was it about Howard Ruff's arguments that impressed you?
Okay, he talks about, like as we get more inflation, you're going to get more strikes, for instance. People want to try to keep up with inflation and more of a breakdown in society. He talks about, the eventual breakdown in society.
And you talk about the possibility of an ultimate breakdown of some kind. Mm-hmm. What do you see happening? What are the possibilities?
Okay, just to give you one example, a trucker strike. Now, he says in his book that apparently it would take approximately 2 weeks for a city to empty of food. Now, in Toronto, there has been a study done about this, and it would take only 4 days in Toronto. So if there was a trucker strike in 4 days, you're out of luck.
What would happen? What would it be like?
Well, to begin with, you get an awful lot of people running to the supermarket, and they don't, in a situation like that, they don't just grab 1 pound of hamburger, do they? They grab 10 if they can.
The Ontario Food Terminal, the point from which produce is shipped to the shelves of most of Toronto's food stores. Harry Osman is the terminal's general manager.
Everything here is trucked in. We're surrounded by vehicles. What happens if they can't get here? What happens if there is a calamity which closes the roadways? What then?
Well, then there would be no produce available in the city of Toronto.
And
the housewife would go to the supermarket store, and there would be no stuff on the market on the shelves.
It's something we tend to take for granted, being able to go down on a Friday, a Saturday, buying what we want. Can you imagine what the reaction would be if you couldn't do that?
Oh yeah, it would be panic. It would be panic. Because there would be nothing to eat.
After they hit your local Dominion store or what have you, then they'll go to their food warehouses. It's going to take them a couple of weeks before it comes to their mind, let's hit our neighbor.
There are a lot of people who feel as you do, but who feel that they must arm themselves for whatever eventuality they're looking forward to.
That's right, yeah. There's a line you have to cross to come to that conclusion, this chance of becoming violent. You have your survivalists and you have your Howard Ruffers, which is what I sort of refer to myself as. And Howard Ruff is less violent. He doesn't really believe in the gun aspect either. That's a very savage way of thinking.
Still, American traditions are largely based on the right to bear arms. In fact, law and order was brought to much of this continent through the firearm. Bit of the old American West here outside Phoenix, Arizona. The kind of a place where only the tough survived and where the only law was the gun. Hit. Despite the camouflage combat gear, these men are mostly civilians. They're attending a convention sponsored by Soldier of Fortune and Survive magazines. And almost to a man, they believe they eventually may have to use a gun to survive. The non-violent survivalists would find themselves in heavy company here. Convention organizer Robert Brown.
We have people here that have been served under foreign flags, and the popular term for individuals like that, of course, are mercenaries. We have professional military people here.
You know, I went in as a boy and I came out as a man, and that's what it was.
I went in as a man and came out as a crazy.
Fat or something?
No, I said some grease. Kiss her. I did.
Even with the hijinks, there was an air of menace at this convention. John Donovan, a Soldier of Fortune editor, recognized it.
Can you appreciate how some members of the general public might be concerned in some way to see 800 people talking about being prepared, talking about their gun collections, their marksmanship?
Certainly. If I had never been in the military and lived in rural America and suddenly 1,000 camouflage-covered people showed up, many of them carrying knives and here to shoot, etc., yeah, I'd be a little skeptical of the results myself.
Should we not be?
No, I definitely think you shouldn't be. The majority of these people, I'd say the average age is 35 or above.
One of them was Calgary's Ray Laycock.
Ray, you're here practicing, among other things, hostage situations, combat shotgun techniques. Why? Why are you here?
Well, as we were discussing earlier, I think it's a very simple situation. Nobody expects war. Nobody expects these situations, but when you're talking about life and death, it seems a little bit foolish if you have the chance not to be prepared to be the one that survives.
And how do you see the use of a gun fitting into that philosophy?
I hope never, but by the same token, it is a tool that has a very definite place in certain situations that are certainly, even in our own country, and in our own situation right today, becoming more prevalent.
There are a large number of people that believe that certain things are inevitable, and they want to be prepared for it. I may believe that things are inevitable, and I'm not going to worry about it, period. I mean, I can't be laying up there at night not being able to sleep because I think tomorrow could be doomsday.
You feel you have the right, though, to arm yourself and to prepare yourself for whatever might happen. And if it's a matter of kill or be killed, you want to be ready.
That's right. It's a terrible bottom line, but it is there. It's not what I want. It's not what I hope for. But if it's going to be a matter of somebody breaking in my door and raping and killing my wife and my family, then there's no question in mind where I want to be. And I don't give a damn what the law says. If somebody tries that, and I have the capability and I am there, it's not going to be my family.
Well, I see nothing wrong with people relying on themselves for protection in case the government, the legal government breaks down.
The question is that more likely now than ever before?
Obviously, people feel that to be the case.
You make no secret out of the fact that you are saving in silver, that you're storing food, that you're preparing for whatever it is. How do your friends, how do your neighbors feel about it?
They really thought I was weird at first, I must say, 2 or 3 years ago, and they don't think I am anymore.
Survivalists come in all shapes and sizes, their insurance for the future ranging from guns to freeze-dried food. And if you're skeptical, the survivalists have one question for you. In the event of a crisis, could you be one of them?
Try this. This is something very interesting experience. Go back to your house on a Friday afternoon and do without electricity until Monday morning and see what problems you encounter.